the phrase we would use is lifestyle evangelism. And what we see in every one of those platforms is that there's opportunities.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Grow Healthy, Help People podcast, a podcast that Accordis puts on. We love talking to our nonprofit leaders about all the wonderful things they are doing in their communities and around the world to make a difference. And today we are here with Craig from Blue Sky Global. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. We're so excited. Tell everybody where you're calling from.
I'm in Colorado Springs.
Okay, wonderful. So I know all the amazing things that Blue Sky Global does, but before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about you. Can you tell us kind of your background and what led you into the nonprofit leadership space, and if this has always kind of been the space you've worked in, or if you started in a different area? What kind of led you here?
Yeah, my background starts out in sports medicine. So that was my profession for quite a while. I was an athletic trainer. Um, I moved on from there and went into academia, and I taught in a program for preparing athletic trainers for their careers. I did that for a long time, and those university settings, I was in different leadership positions and started kind of getting interested in administrating and operating procedures and stuff. Um, and along that time, while I was in academia, I got introduced to Blue Sky. So as far as my interest in the mission field or support in ministries, it started early on. Over 20 years ago, just getting introduced to an organization. Um, but I didn't really have an official role or capacity. I volunteered with them a lot on boards and things. And then my professional trajectory just kept um, evolving. I worked for a hospital system for a while and started an orthopedic and sports medicine clinic. And all the while, I was also kind of doing my trade as an athletic trainer with U.S. Paralympics and helping teams across international trips and stuff like that. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of different experiences. And one of the commonalities has always been this organization kind of thing that I liked about helping groups of people or organizations kind of reach their goals. And so when I was at the hospital, I was at that point with Blue Sky was on their board. I was the board chair, and I knew the executive director really well, and we just were having a lot of conversations. I was really excited about a lot of things that were going on in the organization, and just ask a kind of an innocent question one day with her, just saying, "Hey, what would it look like for me to work at Blue Sky full time?" And she goes, "Huh, that's a good question." Um, and we didn't talk about it for about 4 or 5 months. And I happened to be with her and the Blue Sky team in Kenya. They do a staff retreat every year in January. And she said, "Hey, we'd love to have board representation. Why don't you come over?" So I went. It'd been quite a while since I'd been over, so I was super excited. And yeah, conversations just kind of kept going. We hear these little kind of funny stories all the time of how people craft business deals on a napkin. And that's kind of what happened. We just had a piece of paper. It wasn't actually a napkin, but we just kind of passed it back and forth while we were there. Like, "Hey, what do you want to do? Hey, what do you need done? What do you do that you don't like doing now that you need help with?" And by the end of the week, we had a rough sketch of a job description and came back and talked to the board about it. And that was something they thought we could benefit from the organization. So yeah, I left my job at the hospital and started with Blue Sky full time 4 years ago. So that's how I
Wow.
got here.
That's incredible. I love that story. And I love it's such a unique story that you started off as a volunteer and,
hmm
just grew with the organization and then started noticing all these things that you felt could be better or change or, just make a bigger impact. And that you just kind of took it on yourself to say, "Hey, I want to do this," and like had that initiative. I think that's awesome. That's a really cool story.
Well,
So tell me
thanks.
a little bit about Blue Sky. What do you guys do? What's your purpose? What's your mission? Who do you serve? Tell us all about it.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, every organization has a vision statement, and I mean,
Yeah,
so here's ours, and then I can unpack it a little bit. But
perfect.
um, our vision is to see multinational communities in Nairobi, Kenya, spiritually transformed and equipped to influence the world for God's glory. Um, and Blue Sky, we believe in experiences, and experiences change people. So we want to leverage our programming to build relationships through adventurous experiences. And I can get into the specific programming in just a minute, but I think sometimes when I say that, and I think everybody kind of has their elevator spiel like that. One thing that usually, if someone's got some curiosity, they're going to say, "Well, what are multinational communities?" Not really familiar with that, and we've always wrestled with that. Like, how do you describe the people that we're there to reach and serve? And so multinational communities in Nairobi represent Kenyans and global citizens who are influential in their professional and their personal life. Nairobi's kind of a very unique city where the UN for East Africa is headquartered, and that drives a lot of embassies. Real quick on Nairobi, there's over 6 million people in Nairobi. And it's expected by 2050, the population will double. Um, there's 86 different countries represented currently in Nairobi and 43 different international schools. And each of those international schools could have representation of over 40 countries in them. So the diversity of the landscape in Nairobi is awesome. It's something that one of the things the first time I visited Kenya drew me there because I think as Westerners we all have maybe a picture of Africa, and it's indigenous Black Africans. It's safari. It's many times it's from a ministry standpoint. It is the angle of impoverished individuals, marginalized people that need lots of things, whether it's fresh water or health care. And there's tons of need for that. Um, that's not what I saw how Blue Sky was engaging. They were engaging with these multinational communities because what we recognized was, hey, there's a big segment of the population that's in Nairobi. A lot of them are here because their jobs bring them here, like diplomats and stuff and businesses. And they're coming from all over the world. And a lot of them are just put off by the church. They don't want to have anything to do with the church based on where they're coming from. And they are not receptive to a typical invite to let's go talk about Jesus or let's go to the church. So how are you going to connect with them? And there was no, all the need in Kenya, rightly so, was being focused on, but nobody was really focusing on this big group of people. And so we decided that would be something that we wanted to do. We can get into the details of the invitation to come over there if we have time. But really, in a nutshell, I wanted just to say multinational communities, and that's why. And there's still 25 years later, we're still the only organization over there that's dedicated to try to reaching them. And simultaneously, another function of Blue Sky is parachurch ministries. So the churches in Nairobi are set up. So there's lots of international churches now. That wasn't the case when we first got started. There was only one, but most of the pastors and the staff are bivocational. They are not only just employed for the church services. So a lot of the things
Yeah.
that we come to take for granted in the U.S. as far as youth ministry, young adult ministry, marriage retreats, or any kind of like ancillary thing out of what's happening from the pulpit, those things are not readily available. So that's where Blue Sky comes in to help and serve the parachurch ministries. So I know I talked a long time just
No,
from,
I think
hey,
that's
this is our
Yeah.
vision statement, but I'll stop and let you
No,
keep
I love
going.
the vision statement. And what I love about what you guys do is so often, and I've been one of these people, when we think about going to other countries and sharing the gospel, when we say unreached, I think a lot of
Hmm.
times it equates in people's minds to underserved. And
Yes.
that's just not always the case, which you guys are showing. And I love that you're just reaching this whole new group of people that no other organization is reaching. I think that's so
Mhm.
important. And that can be said for, I'm sure, so many other countries,
Yep.
that there are missions in, that they're reaching those underserved communities, but there's still probably groups of people in all countries that aren't being reached because of their status, or it's just not what we're used to as far
Yeah,
as.
you're totally right. I think
Yeah.
that is the way we have started to apply that word unreached. I know traditionally, in the mission field, a lot of times that was people who had never even heard the gospel, and we know there's
Yeah.
still people in the world that haven't, and there's people focused on that.
Yeah.
Unreached, to your point, could even apply in the United States. There are
Right.
pockets in the United States where there are large population of people that they don't know anything about the church,
Yeah.
or if they do, they only know what the church is against, and they are
Right.
therefore they haven't grown up in the traditional U.S. Christian society like maybe our parents did, or things like that. So
Right.
I agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's incredible. So tell us about the adventures. Like, what do your programs look like? What do you guys actively do?
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, adventure's kind of in our DNA. We love how adventures stretch people, and not all adventures have to put you to a limit, like extreme adventures. So our programs range from camp to climb, expeditions, family life, and team development. So camp looks like a traditional Western U.S. summer camp, and so we run a camp in the summer. And climb looks like us having we have our own climbing gym, and that's kind of our hub of where our staff go to work every day, and it's a place to really try to connect and offer people that are coming in, because a lot of these people, as we talk about, hey, they're global citizens. Well, that kind of implies that maybe they won't be there long. And you're right. They come for 2 or 3 year posts. So they enter a community. They don't have really any connection. Um, and climbing and bouldering is a way to make connections. So that is an opportunity for them to come and us to have an opportunity to start relationships. Uh, Family life is real broad. So that could be anything from adult ministries, like I mentioned earlier, like marriage, men's and women's retreats, but it could be young adult focused as well. And our youth ministry. So our youth ministry runs year round. We are offering weekly opportunities for students to engage. We call those base camps, and they come from schools and um, hang out for like on a Friday evening or Saturday afternoon. And then team development is working with using that information of leadership in all of these different platforms. So it kind of intertwines with each of those age groups. We say we kind of serve 70 to 70 plus because, 7 is where we start with our camp. But our adult ministry keeps going, and this leadership part kind of is woven in to everything that we do.
Okay. So tell me how does it intertwine with, you know, sharing the gospel? Is it more of like a, you know, kind of a outward just by the way you serve them, or is there actually a portion where you're actually talking to them and sharing the gospel?
Yeah, I mean, the phrase we would use is lifestyle evangelism, and what we see in every one of those platforms is that there's opportunities for an initial point of contact when they enter in something, and at some point can be an opportunity for evangelism. And then based on where people are on the spectrum of knowing and committing to Christ, there's going to be an opportunity for discipleship. But it looks a little different depending on the programming. So for our summer camp, for example, I mean, it's a Christian summer camp. Everybody knows that. And we have lots of campers that come from other faith backgrounds, and they understand that this is what it's about, and everything revolves around the gospel that week. In some of our platforms like Climb, it's very much more a relational type of approach to engage with people, because I think all of us understand that, even in the US. I mean, you're in a neighborhood, and I think, what's the likelihood that you're just going to start going around the neighborhood and knocking on everybody's door and asking them to come to church with you? It's probably going to be really hard. Some people have that gift and they're awesome at it. For a lot of us, and for people who hear that invitation, they're a lot more receptive if there's a relationship first. There's some trust built. You've shared things. And so that's how we're approaching many people in the element of maybe Climb or expeditions. Our family life ministries kind of much different, right? Like if we have a men's retreat or a women's retreat, or a marriage retreat, I mean, we're talking about the principles of relationships within a marriage that are based on what Christ says and how we're supposed to love each other. So we don't shy away from it. We just recognize that in some environments, um, it's not going to be received as well if you're just, hey, if you're going to climb today, I need to share the gospel with you first. That's not the approach at all. It's super relational. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So have you seen anybody come through your program and you built this great relationship with, and then they've come back to volunteer? Have you witnessed that happen?
Yeah. We've seen that. I would say most prevalent has been through our camp, because we're
Okay.
able to
Yeah.
intersect with a lot of these youth at a pivotal time in their life. And if they leave camp, having maybe made a decision for Christ, or seeing how and appreciating and valuing how Blue Sky engages with them, we've definitely seen them come back and want to be camp counselors. They have applied and been hired for full-time positions in Kenya. So I think that's probably the best example
Wow.
that we can talk about, is how
Yeah.
camp kind of creates those opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. I love that so much. So, with running a nonprofit, there obviously come a lot of challenges. And I can imagine that there are even more challenges when you're running the nonprofit from the US and it's in another country. So, what are some of the challenges you just face in general, whether it be funding or other things? What are you working through the most?
Well, I don't think you'll have anybody on your podcast that won't list funding as the first thing that's
Exactly.
always
Yes.
that's
Number
a that's
one,
a
always.
challenge. It's always number one. Um,
Yes.
our model is kind of got three spokes to it. So we have missionaries that are mobilized from the U.S. that go and work full-time positions alongside our full-time Kenyan staff. Our missionaries are responsible for raising 100% of their support. We generate revenue in Kenya through our programs, and that helps contribute to the budget, which pays our Kenyan full-time staff. But our vision is always first. And so profit is not what's driving what we do, it's our vision. And so the gaps that do exist between what they generate in revenue, our US staff global, we are raising money to offset that deficit and keep our US operations going. So it's just a little nuance, but yes, um, fundraising is always going to be at the top. And then I think when you have an international organization, the first thing that just you're faced with is, how do you have good organizational structure and reporting when you've got two different things going on? You've got things that are happening on the US side that we're obviously very donor facing and in recruiting and trying to mobilize. And then in Kenya, I mean, we're very client faced because we're there um, trying to get people to come to our programs and things like that, because that gives us the opportunity to build relationships. So you got different audiences, different messaging that you need to have a good marketing partner with to help you understand those different audiences and different messaging. And then ultimately, when you're on that, you have the time difference you do, and we are even scattered as a U.S. staff. I'm in Colorado. I got a couple of colleagues here. The rest of us, the team is in Georgia, and so depending on where we are in the U.S., there's a 7 to 10 hour time difference with the time change. So, how are you communicating? So, time differences change the way you think about how you want to talk to the people when there's such a big time gap. So, I think that's
Yeah,
just something you
a lot of
learn.
things to work
Um,
through. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you're watching this, I know, oftentimes I'll talk a lot about the funding side, but he hit a little bit on the marketing side too. That is definitely something that Accordis can also help with if you're a nonprofit leader and your nonprofit is struggling to figure out how to reach people to really understand your vision, understand your mission, and really target the right audiences for what you need. And so, if that's something that your organization needs help with, we would love to help you. You will find our website at the end of this podcast episode and you can reach out to us. So tell me a little bit about you've been with this organization for so many years now. Do you see any opportunities for a different kind of growth, like changing things, adding things? What does growth look like in the next 5, 10 years for you guys?
yeah. That's good. And I think I love having that question. And I feel like for a nonprofit to get that question, it's encouraging because what it's hopefully recognizing is that you are growing, that your things are going well, and we've gotten that question a lot over the years. The main one would be, "Hey, are you thinking about being anywhere else?" Right? If you're international, like now, are you going to grow? Or are you going to grow your brand and try to and reach other people in other communities? We've explored some of those opportunities. And one thing we keep coming back to that one of our um, former board members used to like to say a lot of times was the world comes to Nairobi. And it's true. So if the world is coming to us and then they're transient, right? They're going to stay there for a period and then they go back out and they either go home or they go somewhere else in the world. We're at a really good place that we don't need to be anywhere else because we can potentially have very positive impact all over the world by being in one central location. So with that said, things that we are interested in and have ongoing is that we do a lot of our program at a great place called Brackenhurst Hotel and Conference Center that's located about 30 minutes outside of Nairobi. It's a wonderful 100-acre property, and we're so excited to partner with a group, Axe, who runs the hotel and conference center, and we do our programming there. So we're super excited about where that relationship's going to go, and really just working together more to see how we can utilize each other's strengths. As we look for opportunities for more sessions or camp or other programming, and then leaning on what they do so well, which is just good Christian hospitality through their services there. So that's an exciting thing for us that's in front of us.
That is so exciting. So to reach these goals and really just to continue doing what you do, how can people best help you? How can people serve you? And are there ways for people to get involved? I'm assuming the biggest way for people to get involved is when you're looking for missionaries to be able to go over. So tell me a little bit about that and how people get involved with you.
Yeah. We'll just start with the one we won't hide it. Any nonprofit's going to say give, and certainly
Yes.
that is, we need financial support, but
Yes.
that's not the primary, I would even say. It's a
Yeah.
both and situations. You need funding, but you also need people. So the go
Right.
piece is super important for us. And go could look like a couple of different things. Go could be like exploring what it does. We run what we call adventure on mission trips, and that's where we partner with different organizations, a lot of times churches, but we sometimes do these where they're just individuals that are coming together, and we'll put a group together, and it's kind of a curiosity trip.
Yeah.
It's it's who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing it in Nairobi? And
Mhm.
obviously, yes, we can't deny that there is this adventurous thing of, oh yes, I've always wanted to go to Africa or Kenya or
Yeah.
something. And so we help facilitate trips like that many times. So go can look like curiosity or exploration. Go could look like short term, like for many youth. They're looking for opportunities in the summer. So it could be going over if they're in
Mm.
college and working as a camp counselor. Um,
Yeah.
we have potentially internship opportunities depending on what the school is doing and the degree. And we have kind of something in the middle called apprenticeships. So that could
Okay.
look like a 6 to 12 month stint that's not connected to any academic credit. It could be a gap year. Someone's
Mm.
kind of interested in like,
Yeah.
international missions.
Yeah.
I'm interested, but it kind of seems scary.
Yeah. What
How
does
can
it look
I
like?
go? What does it look like?
Yeah.
And we always tell people, uh, Nairobi's a great place. Kenya in general, it's one of the biggest barriers I think that people, when they're considering mission work internationally, is language. Well,
Mhm.
English is spoken is the primary language in Kenya, so that's not a barrier. So we're kind of a low entry as far as like culturally of coming in and seeing what does mission work look like. And then the last piece is what you said. The go piece would be mobilization. Um, so yeah, for us, and that's ultimately it is the funding and mobilization that allow us to do what we do. Um, we do have a blend of Kenyan staff and mobilized missionaries, and we need to keep that to be who we are. So back to what I said earlier, 40 international schools. Um, you know, we will never have enough people to run youth programming over there, right? I don't know. Maybe God's got bigger plans than I can think of, but you know, so those are the big ones I would say about getting involved. And the best way people can just learn more about us, obviously, like most orgs, is go on our website, look, and if you want to know more, you can reach out to any of us on staff. I'd be happy to talk to anyone. If this sounds like something that your church might be interested in as far as looking for short-term trips or things. I think we do, as we said at the top, we are kind of niche as far as how we do ministry, and that might be something that's interesting to toss out to people for stuff. So yeah, we're always looking for partners with churches, and it doesn't have to start with how big is your missions budget. That's usually not even on the table for us. It's like, hey, can you pray with us? Can you advocate for us? And can you help recruit and help us that way? That's a tremendous thing that a smaller organization, I my experience is that's where many of them struggle is how do I do that? And I think it's super hard unless you can identify churches that are intent on mobilizing. Like they see that as critical as part of their congregation, serving locally, serving in the US, but also for us, serving internationally needs to be part of the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what you guys are doing is absolutely incredible. It's so unique. It's so exciting, and there's so much to be said about reaching people through relationship and through just building that bond with someone to have that trust. And I think that the way you guys do that is absolutely incredible. If you are watching, I would encourage you to go check out their website. We're going to have it at the end of the show. Please check them out. See how you can get involved. See if it's something you feel like your church could get involved in. If you feel led and if you feel excited about their mission, give to them. They can, of course, always use it. And most importantly, pray for them as they are doing wonderful, amazing things in Africa. So, Craig, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Well, I appreciate you having me. It's been great, and I appreciate what your organization does.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, we will talk to you next time on the podcast.